If you skim our incident logs, you'd think a ranger's nights are paperwork, coyotes, and coffee. The checkboxes hide teeth. What follows are 12 accounts collected from rangers who asked for no names, no pay, only the promise that someone would finally hear them. We changed a few trail names, not the truth. You won't find these in the reports. You'll see unfounded, weather, or no contact. Read fast. The woods have rules, and some of us still work beneath them. If something calls your name, you didn't hear it. If you see it, no you didn't. Watch before it disappears. First account. Storm cleanup in Shenandoah after a night of downed limbs. I was closing an upper trail where the fog sits low and the stonework is older than the brochures admit. Just past a blowdown, a stairway cut from granite rose out of the laurel, 12 steps up to nothing. I radioed maintenance, got static. I stepped onto the first tread and felt the radio's belt clip go cold against my back, like metal in a freezer. The air went flat. On the sixth step, I noticed my boot prints on the moss behind me, pointing the wrong direction, as if I'd already come down. I retreated, counted again, 12 steps, but descending took 13. Back at the junction, my watch said 40 minutes had passed. The log reads, hazard, trail reroute recommended. What I wrote in my notebook was simpler. Don't climb stairs that weren't there yesterday. Not ever. Second account comes from a fire lookout that uses a crank phone when storms roll in. Nights up there stretch forever, you start naming bats. Around 2 in the morning, a whistle rose from the steps below the cab. A birdsong we drill to identify, except it wasn't a bird. It whistled my last name, syllables tilted wrong, like someone learning a tune on a broken recorder. I waited. The tower groaned, and the catwalk creaked as if weight circled it. When the knob twitched, I set my palm on the door and recited our rule. Nobody gets in after dark, not even me. The whistle stopped. I stood there until sunrise. On the landing I found damp prints, child small, each with 6 long fingers aiming at the hatch. The log says trespasser. The photo says otherwise. The radio tape caught a single breath before hissing. I kept the tape. Third account started as a simple welfare check at an alpine lake. Hikers reported shouting after dark, 2 flashes of light, then nothing. We hiked in with headlamps dimmed to preserve night vision. The water was glass, ice still clinging to the edges. I called across and got my own voice back, delayed. Then a man yelled help from the middle, breathless. We stripped to dry suits, tossed a line, and counted heads as 2 campers stumbled from the trees, shivering. They'd argued, one slipped, both made shore on the far side. No one else was with them. The voice kept pleading from water, closer, farther, never splashing. I swept my light and found a vest bobbing by a submerged rock, canvas so old the stitching had rotted. We brought it in. It smelled of coins and lakeweed. The log says false call. The vest still hangs in the shed. Fourth account was inside sandstone where tourists never go. Winter closed the main trail, so we ran inventory on emergency caches and checked air quality monitors. In the third chamber the sound came like knuckles on a hollow table. 3 taps, pause, 2 pause, 3 again. We froze and checked numbers. Oxygen fine. CO2 fine. The rookie whispered Morse, but the pattern looped nonsense. My headlamp spit static across wet calcite, and the chalk arrows we'd marked on our way in had turned to X's pointing at us. I radioed for a sit rep and got a reply from my own call. Time shifted by a breath. We backed out, counting steps, touching the right wall the whole way. At the entrance, daylight looked wrong, too white, like fridge light. The log blames unstable ceiling. What we agreed in the truck was simpler. If stone starts speaking, you do not answer back. Fifth account lives where the ground floats and the horizon hums. On airboat patrol, we cut the engine to listen for fishermen. The sawgrass clicked. A gator thrashed somewhere left, heavy and mean, except the water didn't move. I eased my light across the flat and caught reeds bending as if something tall and narrow slid between them, pale enough to borrow starlight. It stopped when the beam touched it. The thrashing sound came again from behind us, closer, still without ripples. My partner tapped my wrist twice, the signal to kill the light. We let the dark grow back. The reeds unbent. Something exhaled under the bow and the boat dipped like a man had stepped aboard. We didn't move, didn't speak, didn't breathe deep. After a minute, the weight left and the engine started on the first pull. The log mentions poacher activity. The prop has a scratch. Sixth account is from a boardwalk that hisses and breathes. Night patrol keeps folks from wandering off into crust that looks solid until it isn't. Steam pushed in the wind, and the basin pulsed like a sleeping animal. I heard boots behind me on the boards, light. I turned with the speech ready, and no one was there. The steam drifted back. From inside it, beyond the railing, someone said Ranger in a child's voice. Wrong. Stretched thin by heat. I knew the rule. I kept walking, slow, measured, counting planks. The voice followed at my elbow like a kite on a short string, repeating the word until it frayed into a hiss. At the junction, I clicked my radio and heard a single breath recorded back at me. The log sites wind noise. I changed shifts after that, and I do not walk that loop alone at night. Seventh account came from a slot canyon you can straddle with both arms out but never see the bottom. Flash floods had scrubbed the walls clean. We were sweeping the narrows for a missing hiker who left before dawn and ignored the weather band. At a dogleg bend, the rope marks on the sandstone were fresh, but every footprint pointed uphill and downhill at once, like mirrored tracks that refused to choose a direction. We called, got our names back, and then a tone like a wineglass ringing, except there was no glass, only shade and glare. The rookie moved to set a cam. His shadow slid the other way. The radio clipped to my chest read 5 bars, but every transmission came through with a smear, like the words had been pushed across wet paint. We retreated to sunlight and counted, and the count came out wrong by 1, as if the gulch had kept a step. The log says subject not located. The canyon says do not enter when it sings. Eighth account unfolded in a subalpine meadow where elk stack their breath like ghost chords before first frost. I was glassing a slope for stragglers when a bugle cut the air too sharp, then rose into my call sign, the same 5 digits I answer on the radio, stretched into music. It circled the meadow without moving. Sound from everywhere. Scent of wet iron and wallow mud coming from nowhere. I knelt and traced drag marks in the grass, like hooves had learned to write, each curve ending in a human heel. The wind shifted. The timberline watched. The bugle changed to a man laughing into his hands. I walked out without turning, counting paces until the trees hid me, then snapped a photo back through the branches. The image shows frost on my boot where none fell and a rack of antlers standing upright in the middle of the clearing, with no elk beneath it. The log reads wildlife vocalization inconsistent. My notebook says if a call knows your number, change it. Ninth account began under redwoods that cancel the clock. Fog columns walked the campground between tent pads, tall and straight, turning on their own axes. I was checking bare boxes when something tumbled through branches far above, bumping limb to limb until it pinged the lid by my hand. It was a quarter, black with tarnish, dated a year before the park existed. From the canopy came a voice like a breath through moss saying down, not as an order but as a direction. I stepped back, and the fog column turned its long body toward me, as if deciding whether I counted. Something heavy settled on the bare box lid even though nothing was there, and the quarter skittered to the edge and hung, against friction, against reason. I slid the coin into my pocket and set it later on the ranger desk. In the morning it had grown bright as if scrubbed by long fingers. The log mentions wind and debris. My pocket stays empty beneath those trees. 10th account took place on a winter patrol where the road ends and the tundra begins to speak in lights. The aurora was low-slung, curtains brushing the ridge like skirts. We were running a check on a hut used by researchers when the snowfield ahead buckled without sound, like a chest taking a breath. Tracks appeared in the drift, 2 by 2, spaced like a man in snowshoes, except they began in the middle of nowhere and ended at our boots. I reached toward the first print and felt heat coming off it, as if something newly alive had just stepped away. The hut's door stood open though we'd left it latched. Inside, every mug hung exactly upside down and the stove's ash was arranged into a perfect oval. The oval fit a head. The log lists vandalism by unknown party. The field manual I keep in my coat says if the snow breathes, breathe less. 11th account. Desert varnish and petroglyphs carved like constellations you can touch. I was posted at a closed site after rumors of night trespassers. Moonlight made the basalt look wet. Somewhere out past the cairns, a coyote called, then answered itself from a second mouth a heartbeat too late. The glyph panel holds a figure with rays around its head. My beam slid across it and the rays wavered like heat snakes. Footsteps approached soft as dust running, and a voice spoke where no person stood, telling me the trailhead was closed, which is what I had been about to say. The words arrived from the wrong direction, bouncing off stone in a way that made my tongue hurt. I shut my mouth and nodded to the air, and the air nodded back by tipping a small rock from a stack. One, then two, then none. The log says attempted impersonation of staff. I do not work that panel after dark. 12th account happened during a thunderstorm that tore the power from the visitor center like paper. We had 20 campers in the multi-use room, kids clutching board games, parents refreshing phantom bars on dead phones. Lightning cracked close enough to set off the fire alarm, and the generator kicked off on again. Between the whines we heard knuckles at the employee door. 3 slow knocks, pause, then one. I checked the monitor. The camera showed rain, empty hallway, and a shadow standing where no object could cast it. The knocks came again, and a voice used my supervisor's name in a cadence he loved. A little joke from morning briefings, except the man had died on that stairwell last year. I kept my hand on the latch until I remembered the posted note above it. Do not open between cycles. The generator word, dipped, caught. The monitor flickered, and wet boot prints appeared just inside the doorway, facing away, as if someone had walked in backward.